What up, New York Giant Nation and football fans all over the world? It is your boy, Mac the Giants fan. I got the super dope co-host, Adam Costas, and y'all know what time it is. It is the wild card weekend version of the real deal NFC East. Round up. Punch that intro, baby. Hey, what's going on out there, man? What's going on out there, everybody? It's time for the real deal NFC East Roundup, the wild card weekend edition. And the New York Giants are very much a part of this weekend. So let's go, man. How you feeling today, Adam?
I'm feeling good. It took a long time to get here, but we're here, and it's playoff weekend, baby. Everything that's being said is hyped up. No matter if it's, hey, guys are tying their shoes out there, playoff tie. Everything's going to be hyped up. It's going to be fun. Let's see if the Giants can go pull up the upset, or at least the upset by Vegas on Sunday.
Well, let's go on. Let's say what's up to a couple of people in the chat real quick. How you doing, Lady Mackenzie? I feel like it's my first time seeing you here. Appreciate if you sub up to myself and my guy Adam Costas and the Hardcore Sports Network. We bring this to you each and every Wednesday during the season. We're going to be coming to you all through the playoffs, and then we'll sprinkle in some off-season editions too. So appreciate you joining us today, Lady Mackenzie. What's going on, Philly B, my guy? Appreciate
Philly
you, bro,
B.
stopping through.
Taco Tuesday, Philly B. Taco Tuesday.
And AK, what is going on with you, bro? Yeah, no
AK.
Yes, sir. That's good. Can this be a real deal with no Eagle content creator?
Listen.
Love your takes, guys. Killing it.
Don't worry. We're going to bring you on. We're going to bring you on in the offseason or after the playoffs. Heck, maybe if your team makes the Super Bowl.
Next week, AK, if the New York Giants are going back to the Lincoln Financial Field for the divisional round next week, we'll bring you on next Wednesday, brother. How about that? If you can be available. How about that, AK? I would love to have you here, man.
Get your popcorn ready, AK, and be ready for 5:30 p.m. next Wednesday because we're coming to your house.
Oh, okay, Lady Kenzie, how you doing? I just changed the name up a little bit. Okay. I have seen you before. But anyway, guys, everybody, it is wild card weekend coming up. The New York Giants, like I said, ain't been a part of this in quite some time, man. So, it's a big deal for us. Definitely a big deal for us. It's been a long time since we've seen the New York Giants play in a postseason game. We get to do that Sunday afternoon. Can't wait to get there. But before we do want to talk about them Week 18 matchups real quick, go over them briefly. And we're going to start right in the city of brotherly love, man. Since my guy AK is sitting here in the chat, we're going to go there, man. The city of brotherly love on Sunday, where the Philadelphia Eagles wrapped up their first round bye and a division title by knocking off the New York Football Giants. And I was there to witness it. But Let's keep this on. Let's keep it for real. I mean, it was an interesting game. I thought the Eagles were going to blow us out a lot more than this, considering we did not throw any of our guys out there. Really, I mean, we had a couple, very few starters getting some reps out there. A couple offensive linemen were out there getting some reps. Not much else, honestly, as far as starters go, man. I mean, Kenny Golladay played the entire game. Yeah, that's how far he's fallen. That's how far he's fallen. Where he played the entire game because he's just basically a backup reserve player now for
Yeah,
us. And
$72 million reserve, the highest paid reserve in the NFL.
absolutely. But he did score his first touchdown as a New York Giant.
Can we talk about that play for a minute? Can
We
we?
can.
Why can't we get more of those? The guys on the field active. You know what they ran? A fade and go route. All they did was say, "Okay, Kenny, go deep. I'll throw it to you. Up, look, touchdown." How hard is that? I want that against Minnesota. Put it in the playbook. Let them be surprised since you haven't used Kenny all year because that's what he should have been doing. That's a play that needs to happen more often. Not in an exhibition game. Use it. He's there. If he's on the roster healthy, use it.
I mean, look, Brian Dable has not ruled him out from getting a little more playing time this week. He said we're gonna use what we got. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. I just feel like him and Daniel Jones have not built any form of chemistry up, and Daniel Jones has clearly built some chemistry with the guys that's helped us get us here. Richie James, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, and I just still look to see a lot more of those guys on Sunday. I mean, Kenny Galladay maybe might surprise us and come out there and make a few plays with Daniel Jones at the helm, but I just feel like it's something with that hookup that chemistry just hasn't seemed to form, and it just doesn't seem to work out very much. But we'll see. Like I said, this is the playoffs. You can't hold nothing back, like you said. But this game on Sunday afternoon, man, up in the link. It was we had our backups out there, and they play admirably. Considering Davis Webb, third string quarterback, ain't been active all season. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's been active all season, all year, for any game. But
I don't think I think he's been active per se, but like a healthy scratch, like he was a third string quarterback or something like that one time this year. Because I remember him being signed to the active roster or some shit. I was like, what are they doing? But hey, he got to play, right?
I mean, he played, and for what it's worth, I'll tell you, Davis Webb. I mean, it wasn't anything
Davis
special,
Webb.
nothing to write home about, but he showed some being elusive. I want to bring out one stat right here because he was playing against the Eagles starting defense, and there's something to be said about it. He did not one sack in this game of Davis Webb. Davis Webb looked elusive as hell. A lot of times they had Davis Webb dead to rights, and he was spinning out of potential sacks and getting away, and he wasn't necessarily making the plays down the field, but he was still, getting away from the sack and getting the ball off, getting the passes off. And there was something to be said about that a little bit. He had the big touchdown run, Blankenship. I know you remember that.
I'm sure they're
But
laughing in the highlight room right now in the meeting room.
Davis Webb, I mean, yeah, this Eagles football team coming into this football game, if I'm not mistaken, it had been about 5 games in a row that this defense had recorded at least 6 sacks, and they didn't get 1 sack of Davis Webb. So there's something to be said about that a little bit. I mean, he played tough out there, like I said, all things considered. And it is what it is. I mean, went out there and went toe to toe with the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Eagles obviously a better football team. Got the job done at home like they were supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was fun. I mean, first off, there is something to write home about. Okay, Davis Webb is writing home that he's starting a game and he'll have that memory for the rest of his life going forward. So while we may not think it was anything performance-wise to write home about, it is something that he will cherish. Now, I was kind of puzzled when they said he was starting, only for the simple fact that I did not think that he would be starting. I thought we would see Tyrod Taylor. I was actually wanted to see Tyrod Taylor, but they obviously wanted to hold him out, thinking that maybe the Eagles would pin their ears back, and in case he gets injured or something happens, God forbid, to Daniel next week, I guess you have your backup starting. Plus, I think they threw him a bone because they honestly know that he's probably not going to play again. Remember, before this year, he was going to be signed to be a coach, actually in Buffalo. Dable lured him and said, "Hey, we'll get you to play." I'm sure he's probably going to become a QB's coach or something on their staff, and we'll see. But it was fun to watch him play. Some other guys that stood out to me, Jared Davis had like 10 tackles. I mean, think about that. A guy who came in a few weeks ago gets a start and is having 10 tackles. I thought that was pretty cool. And the backup offensive line played pretty admirably. I mean, he was running for his life, but hey, you know what? The future is bright for the New York Giants.
I mean, you want to go down that road defensively. Rodarius Williams also adding 10 tackles, and they were all solo tackles. So, I mean,
Well, good for him.
this guy's been in the doghouse ever since those infamous tweets, and he came out there, got a chance to get back on the field, and he made some impact plays on Sunday as well. He
Which,
played
by the
well.
way, I don't think he should have been, reprimanded the way he was, because I don't think his play was the reason why he should have been benched. Okay, he had an interception against the Cowboys. Yes, he got
Yeah,
roasted against the Texans, but let's be honest, that was his first game back from a knee injury. Okay, and Adoree Jackson went down in that game, and you're thrust right in. So after that, the Cowboy game got an interception on Dak Prescott, which apparently everybody gets interceptions on Dak Prescott these days, but yeah, I thought he did play pretty well when he was in there. So the fact that he was in the doghouse, I don't know if that was just maybe he missed a meeting, maybe he, we'll find these things out, as the years go on, as the weeks go by. We'll eventually unearth some of the reasons why. But I think he deserved to play, and he acquitted himself pretty well.
absolutely. And another bright spot. This time I go to the offensive side of the ball. If you want another little bright spot, was Gary Brightwell running the ball pretty
Right
effectively, pretty
spot
well,
with
man.
Brightwell.
I mean, 11 carries, 60 yards. I know it doesn't sound like anything great, but he had some pretty nice runs. He runs tough. He runs hard against that Eagle front. He made a couple of plays, man. So I can attest that Gary Brightwell. I think this coaching staff really needs to consider giving this kid a little bit more reps, man, and that also taking a little bit of that pressure off of Saquon Barkley, man, because we know
Well,
how great Barkley is, but I just think Brightwell's deserving of a little bit more rep. I'm not saying you got to make them even, split the time completely, but just work them in a little bit more. See what this kid
let's
can do.
talk about this. Let's talk about this for a minute, because Saquon Barkley, we think, is going to be signed next year. Now, there's rumors going around by DJ and Saquon. They're probably a package deal. I don't think DJ can survive without Saquon. However, I think the Giants overall can survive without Saquon, because if you look what they do, they're a predominantly run heavy team. Now, I'm not saying advocating to get rid of Saquon. All I'm saying is that if you're going to pay a guy a lot of money, you're going to want to put him on there a lot. So you've got to figure out what you're going to do in case of an emergency, right? Break glass. Remember, we won in Devontae Booker last year, and he got a lot of carries because Barkley was not himself, right? So I rather have Gary Brightwell, who is performing pretty admirably on this team, and see where he can fit in going forward, because what killed Barkley, I think, in his rookie year and in the other years is that he does get hit a lot. And when you get a guy hit a lot, he gets exposed to injury in a violent game, right? And I'm not saying that Barkley is going to go out there and get injured the first play of the game. You obviously saw that he was banged up. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe say, hey, Giants, we're going to be a running team, and have a two-back committee and give some more carries to Brightwell. Allow a fresher Barkley down the stretch, because I think if we gave more carries to Brightwell in the earlier games, in the middle of the season, maybe Barkley's a little healthier now, right? Maybe we could have rested him a little bit more, said, hey, take 2 weeks off, get that shoulder right, and away you go. And it's good to see him performing. Joe Judge looked like an idiot for not playing that kid. I think we banged the table for him a couple times. I think this is his third year in the league right now.
This is
Second year. Okay. Last year he didn't get any burn, or when he did get burned, he did exactly this. And it's like, this guy was underrated at Arizona. He had some speed, he had some power, and I like what he brings to the table. As a kick returner, he's liable to break one. That's how good he is. So get him out in the field. Let's see if he can do a screen. Do something different. Maybe put a two back in there. Maybe put him at the backfield and Barkley at the slot receiver, or have him motion out. Let's do some more creative stuff. And Matt Breida actually had a good game as well. And he'll be another guy going forward that we're going to have to think about maybe signing.
Yeah, I agree totally with Matt about both of those guys, man. I think they provide really decent behind Barkley in the backfield. They're good couple of good complementary backs. On the other side of things, the Philadelphia Eagles, man, we had that little pesky little New York Giant killer out there once again, killing the New York Giants. If this dude played against the Giants every game, he'd be the best running back in the league. I'm talking about little Boston Scott. This guy, I don't know what it is about this guy when
Boston hates New York. Boston hates New York,
Giants uniforms, and he just decides, I'm going to go out there and go crazy, man.
Have a career day.
But once again, Boston Scott found his way into the end zone against the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think he has 9 touchdowns. 7 of them have come against the Giants.
I mean, Miles Sanders had 11 carries in this game. Like I said, being up in the stands at this one, that was the quietest 11 I've ever seen because I don't even remember him touching the ball 11 times, honestly. I felt like after like the first couple drives, I never saw him again.
Right,
But
well,
it
I think
says
they were trying to blow us out quickly, and it didn't work out that way. They didn't score touchdowns. They got a couple penalties and things like that. So I think had they scored 3 touchdowns and a couple field goals, we wouldn't have seen Jalen Hurst in the halftime either.
well, that's what I was thinking. I was expecting that expecting that, like expecting that they were going to go up big in the first half, and then we were just going to get Minshew for the second half. That's what I totally expected, but the game didn't quite go the way that they probably planned or had it drawn up, and the Eagle
Well,
starters
it
pretty
was
much played the whole way.
penalties and pressure can attribute to it. Okay, and an interception, a costly one, right? Remember, they were down in the goal line. They had that big pass play. They got down to like the 5 yard line. They got a holding call. Then the holding call became, an interception with Dane Belton. They couldn't score again because of another third down field. So they had Jake Elliott out there, and it basically was like 19. It felt like a 3-score game, but it really wasn't. It was like 19-3, 19-0 at half, but it could have been more. But the Eagles shot themselves in the foot and underestimated the Giants' backups, who, by the way, played admirably. The test of a true good head coach and coaching staff is how well your backups play, and you're starting to see the Giants are building themselves a good coaching staff. Look at them across the league. It's not just me. Look at like the Steelers. Look at like the 49ers. Look at the teams that win with good coaching. Those guys, it's almost as if they don't miss a beat.
Another backup that played well. We forgot to mention honestly when we were just talking about him. Another guy, Cordell Flott, played also probably had his best game as a New York Giant on Sunday. Man, I mean he kind of was locked up on AJ Brown for a good chunk of this game. And AJ Brown, you're gonna look at the stat line. He had 95 yards, the 4 big catches, but it was 10 targets. So there's still 6 other passes out there that went AJ Brown's way that didn't make the connection. And Cordell Flott had a little bit to do with some of that. Just want to give that man a little bit of props where props is due. He actually had a really strong game as well. And Devontae Smith still tearing it up, 7 catches, 67 yards. Dallas Goedert still, he's Dallas Goedert, one of the better tight ends in the league. He did his thing too, another 6 catches as well for him. But this Philadelphia Eagle team, one thing I can say, like I said when I was speaking to Adam ahead of time before this, I can keep it real and be honest. The Eagle, I'm not going to make any excuses up, but the Philadelphia Eagle team we saw on Sunday was definitely a far cry from the one we saw a few weeks ago up at MetLife Stadium. This Philadelphia Eagles team had a banged up quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and you could tell this coaching staff definitely was holding him back a little bit. There was definitely opportunities on that field for Jalen Hurts to make some plays, make some things happen with his legs where he normally when he's healthy would do so, and he absolutely was just kind of pulling back, holding himself back, and just kind of sitting back and took a couple of sacks that looked a little un-Jalen Hurts like. So, I mean, I just want to put that in perspective too. I don't want to. Our backups did play admirably and everything, but I don't want people to just get too crazy with it. Like I said, this Eagle team was definitely a little more conservative than normal. So that had a little bit to do with things too. And like you said, they made a lot of weird mistakes, errors, a lot of penalties, dumb penalties, and things were happening in this football game. Like you said, that costly turnover. So just got to put things into perspective. I'm not, trying to disregard what our backup, the New York Giant backups went out there and was able to get done, but it was you got to put it into a perspective and understand this Eagle team was definitely a little more conservative than they usually are. They weren't quite the same attacking football team like you see that offense. It was they came out in the beginning, looked like they wanted to be, and then they realized it just wasn't going to work out, and they kind of had to just go to their plan B maybe, and they still make sure they won this football game, did what they had to do to win this football game. So I just want to keep it real from that perspective, but we may be seeing this football team in a couple of weeks. So
right, and then what I mean by the backups playing admirably is just all I'm saying is that they are coached up well, right? They wasn't like, the game wasn't that close by any means. When you look at the score, it looks close, but when you watch the game, clearly we had backups out there. You could clearly tell that there was a little different twitch out there, not as intense, I should say. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Like you said, maybe we see him in a few weeks. Maybe we don't. Who knows? 50-50. But I have a good feeling we're going to see this team in the division rounds. And I don't want to be cocky. I just, Minnesota, maybe I'm underestimating Minnesota, but they're struggling.
I don't think you're underestimating them. I just think it's a team that we know that we have a confidence enough to go up there and we know we can get the job done. Not saying it's
Right.
automatic. It's definitely not it's not just automatic. We're still underdogs for a reason.
Because they're 8-1. I mean, we'll preview and we'll get into the nitty gritty. I don't want to drop our nuggets now, you know what I mean, and waste all the good stuff in the first few minutes. But we'll talk about that game going forward. But I don't have much more on the Eagle game.
There's one more. I want to ask you about one play. I really haven't talked to anybody about this play, but I remember being up in the stands and ready to just absolutely rip the hair off from out of my beard when it happened, because I believe the Eagles were up. I don't know if they were up 13-0 or 10-0 at the time, but we get downfield, finally put together a pretty decent offensive drive. We're in their zone. We're down on the Eagles side of the field with a chance to score points. Our first points of the game have opportunity, and we go out there and we run a fake field goal.
Oh my God!
That clearly was the Eagles had diagnosed.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Mac. When I was watching that play, I'm like, not again. Not another calamity of errors with the special teams. I'm like, what happened? And then when I watched the replay and it was a real thing, they had one guy going out in a route. Like, how was it? Like, what were you think? I guess they were trying to catch him off guard. Games like this where it doesn't matter. You try these things, but he couldn't even get the pass off. Oh my God, Mac. It was just as bad on TV as it was in the stands, because I wasn't even expecting it. I'm like, oh, Graham Gano, we're going to be up 3-0, whatever it is. And you know what's funny? At that point in the game, it was actually, I thought you could have used the points. I really did.
It was unnecessary at that point in the game. Like you said, we were only, I can't remember. I feel like we were down either 13-0 or 10-0. It was one or the other.
Yes. We were still down by double digits, but it was the first good drive we had. And we're doing, but it's not like we have a backup quarterback like Tyrod Taylor holding it or something like that. We have Jamie Gillian holding it, and he's running around for his life. My wife is looking at the screen like, who is that guy with the mane of hair just running around like a lunatic? Because the way he was running, it made it seem like it was a bad snap and he was panicking. So I'm like, oh, what happened? You look up, you look down. I thought it was automatic. Mr. Graham Gano is automatic. And here he is, another calamity of errors. It's just like, you know what? You can go down the entire season and the Giants have big punt return here, a big kickoff return here, a bad snap here, missed field goal at an inopportune time here. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah, that play right there, man, sitting up in the stands and watching that go down, man, I was just like, are you serious right now, bro?
I do not want to be
very much in the game at that point. No, a fake field goal was not necessary. Just take the 3 points that you're able to get right now. It was your first successful offensive drive of the game that you finally put something decent together, got down there in a position to score points, and you squandered them away just like that. It was absolutely crazy. I hadn't talked about that play all week with anybody, honestly. I just wanted to hear somebody else's opinion of it. But
it was ridiculous.
Miz and Jay Lay, man, thanks for joining the chat, man. Really appreciate
it. Made us look dumb. That's what it made it tough. It made an already bad situation for the Giants because they're playing backups look even dumber. You're looking out there and you know what? As a coach, I would think you want to give them a fighting chance to kind of like, you know what? We're playing guys, but let's try to win the game. That was not a let's win the game moment. That's like, hey, let's try this out. But it wasn't even executed properly. Didn't even look good. The guy looked it was just bad. It was one of those things where thankfully we lost, and it wasn't a play that was critical, and we put our backups in there. Had that been our starters, like Daniel was starting and we were really in the game and we were doing that, oh my God, Brian Dable, you would have had your head on a platter in New York City, boy.
Yeah, that was bad. That was not a good look during that game. But like you said, this game meant absolutely nothing to the New York Giants, and it really, at the end of the day, was not that big of a deal. It just was like, what are we doing? Hope we don't do that when it really matters, Just don't show.
We're going back to Minnesota. and we had a block punt there. So I'm worried a little bit about that. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. We had a block punt. We had before that we had a legal kick in a game as well. So there's been some stuff with our special teams, which if I have to worry about one spot, and again we'll go into this, is that's something I would be worried about. But again, I don't want to go too far in.
See what Miz had to say here. I'm a little worried, but not because we aren't strong enough to beat them. I don't like that entire country suddenly loves the Giants. I do not like that. Yeah, I do prefer having more of that underdog mentality, but technically we still are the underdog, and I'm pretty sure the Giants are going into this game understanding that, and they'll still be focused and ready to go. And I think this team, Brian Dable's got this team, just blocking out all the outside nonsense, And,
I think what he's saying is that he doesn't want. The thing is this, and I agree with him to a certain extent. Right, I don't like when because every time the Giants get picked, I mean, I don't know, at least in my lifetime, I don't know about you, Mac, you're a little older than me. I wasn't around for the 86 season to know I don't even know how much preview shows they had, but point is, when they picked us to do well, we've always failed. 2008, we failed. 2000 and a lot of these times we're better when we're thought of as a dumbass team, as a booty ass squad, just kind of like what the Vikings are being touted as, right? They're the worst 13-win team in the history of the NFL, blah, 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 right? So when I see that, and they are picking them, and people, these guys do listen, they're going to have NFL Network in there. They're going to know. I know people say don't get an extra motivation, but if you're going in getting disrespected already, right, and you're with 13 wins, it does add a little thing like, hey, you know what? Screw you guys. We're going to go out and show you. And from a Giant perspective, we don't have to be scared because we went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the NFL. So the Giants don't have to worry about what the outsiders are saying. But just like Nick Gates saying something, say, oh, it wasn't really that loud. Well, guess what, Nick Gates? That went around Minnesota, and now they're coming even louder this week. So it's kind of those things where you just kind of want to just, be quiet, stay in your lane, don't believe in the hype. Now, that's the media. The Giants, I think, will come out and be fine. But in the media, when they pick us, we've never done well.
No, I agree. I do agree with that. Like, usually when Giants seem to accomplish more when people expect less, I do agree with that. Other than the '86 season,
look at this season. Everyone expected 5 wins, and here we are.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying. I was going to say, other than the '86 season that I can remember, where everybody knew the Giants were going to come out and just be the best damn team in football, the road graders that they were, on their way to a Super Bowl after the '85 season, after the disappointment in the '85 season. Other than that year, Giants usually, when expectations are a little bit less, the Giants usually perform a lot better. But at the same time, I still think there's enough people still doubting the Giants as well, thinking that calling us frauds and this, that, and the other. So I think this team will be focused going in there on Sunday, and I know that 61-yard field goal is haunting a lot of the guys on this team from a couple of weeks ago, and they want some retribution for that. So I feel like this team will be focused and ready to go, and I expect another good performance because this Minnesota Viking defense has not exactly gotten better over the course of the last 2 weeks. It is still a pretty bad defense, and I believe that the New York Giants will still be able to have their way with that defense. With that being said, their offense is also very high powered. So
we'll preview that in a minute.
This could be a high scoring affair. We'll get to that in a little bit. But we did have one more game from Sunday we wanted to talk about real quick. And if you in here still Coles Cowboys, here you go, baby. We are about to come at y'all a little bit, man, because absolutely unacceptable and no excuse for the Dallas Cowboys to perform the way they did on Sunday in a game that still meant a lot to them, even though even they're looking around at the scoreboard in their stadium and seeing what's going on in the San Fran game and seeing what's going on with the Eagle-Giants game and realizing that number 1 seed definitely or a division title definitely wasn't really looking like it was going to be too likely. The reality is you still went out there and played like absolute crap the whole day. The whole day. Sam Howell, this was a debut for the Washington rookie Sam Howell, his first NFL action in the regular season, and he went out there and he performed pretty well and got the job done, man. 11 for 19, 169 yards, a touchdown and an interception in his first ever game. It's not too bad for a young
Didn't he
fifth
have a
round draft
rushing
pick.
touchdown?
He absolutely did. He absolutely ran one in as well. So he had 5 carries for 35 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. So
Listen,
Sam
if we were to put those on Daniel Jones' stats, everybody would be blowing him right now. Okay, so just for a first game, good stuff, I guess.
I mean, it was, and he went out there, and I mean, he was spreading the ball around good, using his weapons. I mean, Washington ran the ball well. Jared Patterson, 17 carries with 78 yards on the day. I mean, this Washington team went out and played well, and they and made sure they kept the Cowboys in that 5th spot, man. Like, look, we not in the playoffs, but y'all definitely gonna be playing next week in the wild card round. Ain't nothing else, and ain't nothing gonna change. We're gonna make sure of that y'all gonna remain that 5th seed, because this team, it was quite embarrassing. I was embarrassed for you, Cowboys. I mean, every time they put that score up in the stadium at Lincoln Financial Field, that whole stadium was just electric, just erupting. New York Giant fans and Eagle fans alike. That's the one thing we did share that joy of, was watching the Washington Commanders kick y'all ass on Sunday. And it just was nothing. I thought the Cowboys were going to come out in this game and absolutely blow the doors off the Washington Commanders. I thought this team was an absolute mess. I thought they threw it in. I thought they just was going to dial it in. They're throwing Sam Howell out there just to be throwing him out there, but this kid went out there and showed them something, and now they got some decisions to make heading into this offseason.
Well, I think maybe they should have started him earlier. I think once they lost the Giant game, I think they should have tried to shake it up a bit. I know they put Carson Wentz in there, but give him the chance. He's a 5th round pick, but he should have he was the best quarterback last year coming out. He was going to be a 1st round pick the year prior in 2020, but he decided to stay an extra year. The guy had 900 yards rushing in college, over 3,000 yards passing. He can get the job done. You saw a little bit of those traits come out on Sunday, and I'm wondering if he got a little bit more time, where the evaluation would be, because you would think the Washington Commanders are going to need to trade up in the draft to get a quarterback. They're going to be 18, 19, something like that. So if they already got a guy in Sam Howell they can build around, if I were them, I would probably do that, and here's why. If you look at next year's coming draft class, 2024, got a lot of quarterbacks coming out that some of them should have came out this year, but due to the eligibility and everything like that, they can have an extra year. So a lot of these guys are going to the NFL draft and playing their last years in college. Well, if I'm the Washington Commanders, why not punt the season? Ron Rivera will be a lame duck coach anyways, right? They just fired his offensive coordinator. You bring in a guy maybe like a Sam Darnold, and you have there's 2 Sams battle out. Sam Howell and Sam Darnold battle out for the starting position. If Sam Howell gives you something, then maybe next year, if you're drafted high, you don't need to worry about it because you got Sam Howell as your quarterback. If nothing else, you got a quarterback in next year's draft. So that's how I approach it if I was Washington. He came out and showed you he could be a competent player. On the other side, Dak Prescott is looking terrible. I don't want to. I don't want to say it, but 14 of 37 is pretty bad. Pretty bad number. I know a lot of people.
A 3.5 average per pass.
Yeah, they were not
also
good.
A bad number.
They didn't rush the football well. So to me, if you look at this game, it looks more like the Cowboys were going through the motions than actually playing for a number 1 seed. It looked like they were conceded into they had Dak Prescott in the entire game, mostly. But to me, this is how it felt. They already knew they were going to be the 5th seed. Let's go out here. But to me, if I were the Cowboys, I would want that dog mentality. I would want to go in on a high note. This is the problem with the Cowboys. They're a very Jekyll and Hyde team. One minute they look like they could be absolute world beaters and Super Bowl champions. And then you look at it now, a game like this where you're like, man, this team, I'd love to play this team right now. I think we can beat them now. You know what I mean?
But the thing about it that bothers me though, from a competitive standpoint with the Cowboys is how can you not go into this game ready? I get it, the 49ers blew the doors off the Cardinals, so number 1 seed wasn't going to happen regardless. But at the same time, the New York Giants played competitively with the Eagles enough that, hey, what if some weird fluky thing happened late in that game and the Giants actually did pull that off? And here you go. And here you go, just wasting an opportunity to at least still win the division.
Right.
So I mean, it's just and Cole, you saying Dak will be okay? Will he though? Because he hasn't been okay for the last past about month or so of this season. It's
Well,
been really really bad. It's
he
been
hasn't been
really
okay.
bad.
He hasn't been okay all year, and I think the injury is really affecting him more so than we think. It's got to be the grip tightness on the ball where he not maybe doesn't quite have the full grip strength that you normally would have, but something's off with Dak Prescott. I don't know if it's the offense. Mike McCarthy, I don't know if he's not motivating the guys. The defense doesn't even look good. The defense doesn't even look good. Like the team that built around Micah Parsons. I mean, let's look at their team here. They got a half, 1.5, two sacks. Nothing spectacular. 3 sacks. I mean, they gave up 26 points to a team that started a 5th-round pick at a quarterback. I mean, come on. You're the better team.
First career start.
Even the Eagles, who are playing a vanilla team against a 3rd-round pick quarterback who hadn't started a game in his entire life, was basically going to be a coach. They at least played competitively to win the football game because they had something at stake. They could have easily lost, saying, "Well, you know what? The Cowboys are going to lose, and they don't have to play." Right? So, and maybe that was the game plan. I don't know. The score did flash up. You said at the link. Maybe the Eagles at that point in the second half, maybe they took the wheels off the brakes when they saw the Cowboys were not winning and Dak Prescott was having a bad performance. I don't know, but you would think that with a little sliver of hope of the division and possibly even a 1st-round bye, you would come out and have a better effort than this.
That's all I'm basically saying. I was just completely unexpected, man. The first time that I saw the score of that game, I was like, "What? Washington is winning?" Then I thought, "Okay, that's not going to sustain. That's not going to last. Dallas is going to get on track here," and it just never happened, man. For this Cowboy team, it was a bad performance, and that's not the way you want to go into the playoffs. You want to kick that door in going into the playoffs, getting the postseason started. I mean, you got an extra day to get ready for this Monday night game. You guys got
Right.
a Monday night playoff game. That's something a little different. We don't have get used to seeing.
Super wild card weekend.
But we'll see, man. We will see. If you're gonna win on Monday, Tom Brady might have something to say about that, and we'll be talking about that in a little bit. Cole's Cowboys. So I hope you
In like a few minutes, actually. In a few minutes. Stay tuned. Sit in your seat. We got some good things to say.
Adam Miz says Giants are going to the Super Bowl, man.
Well, if they go to the Super Bowl, well, listen, I think they're going to beat Minnesota, but the Super Bowl, let's if we beat the 49ers, we're not going to the Super Bowl. That team is probably the most complete team in the playoffs right now. Even if I'm an Eagle fan, I'd be a little worried about going to that game because let's be real, that is a game that is pretty tough. I'm just not going to lie to you. It's pretty.
It is. But the Eagles,
game.
the one advantage the Eagles will have is that does happen. They will be San Fran will be coming to Philly as opposed to having to go out there to San Fran. So
yeah,
I can tell you it's a hostile environment up in there, bro. It gets a little wild in there. So we'll see. That'll be another test for Brock Purdy. That'll be another test for Brock Purdy right there. If it does shape up like that, where you get the 2 best teams in the NFC conference championship.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. We can preview the game right now if you want to. Here's how I preview the Eagles. They're on a bye week, so enjoy your time off, relax, heal, wipe your asses because New York's coming for your ass. So just know, be clean because we're gonna kick your doors in.
Yeah, but before we start going to the game previews, I just wanted to go back to the Giants again. A couple little nuggets we were talking about earlier. Mike Kafka gaining some interest on the head coaching search around these league. Got a couple teams already interested in bringing him in for an interview. This is a guy that a lot of Giant fans wanted to run out of town earlier in the season, and apparently around the league, he's got his reputation as a little bit better than that. I mean, a couple teams. I agree with you what you said earlier to me. I don't think he's going anywhere this year. I think he'll still very much be back with the New York Giants next year as the offensive coordinator. But the fact that he's gaining some serious interest, man, is something to look out for. Keep an eye on him going into the off season.
I think I wasn't really running him out of town, like maybe the quarterback, but everybody else I wasn't really running out of town. I was more I was more just wondering when the offense would kind of move around, but it's kind of interesting. First year, he's already getting interest levels. The Giants' offense isn't like a world beater offense. So, hey, you know what? I mean, if there were 10 teams that needed a coach like last year, where there was a lot more teams. Remember, last year had 10 openings. 5 of those 10 head coaches are now in the playoffs. This year, I think it's about 6 or 7 openings. So I think they'll be filled. Next year, if things happen, that could be his year. I usually it takes 2 years of you being in a spot and performing. I'm surprised Wink Martindale's name is not being thrown around after the great job he's doing. I think one team might be asking for an interview. I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me, but I don't know, man. Kafka should stay if I was him one more year. Don't be that guy that goes to a bad team.
And shout out to Alex, Big Blue in the Bronx, man. Thanks for stopping in, brothers. Appreciate the support, man. He knows something is being built, so Kafka ain't leaving. Neither is Wink. I don't think Wink is taking a job at 59 years old. I hope you're right, man, about that, because I really want to. This,
You
like
never know,
Miz just
man.
said, want to keep this staff together, man. This has been
Vic
a really
Fangio
good
took a
coaching
job
staff.
late in his career. Vic Fangio, who was a great defensive coordinator, Denver offered him a position, and he said, "You know what? Let me take this position. Let me check it out because you want to make sure that that it works, right?" Uh, so that's what I mean. So you got to check that out and make sure that everything checks out. But don't underestimate it. I don't want to say never, right? With Wink Martindale, because I know people are like, oh well, 59 years old, he's old. Listen, you don't get to be a head coach a lot in this league. So if somebody offers you a job, even at whatever age he is, he might take it just to say, hey, listen, I want to try this out. You know what I mean? Knowing Wink Martindale, he might be here. Hopefully, he's here a long time. So maybe if he fails as a coach, he can come back on as a defensive consultant or defensive coordinator. I mean, Wade Phillips was a head coach late as
Well,
well.
the one thing I will say about bringing up the age thing is the recent trend in the last few years, a lot of these new teams, a lot of these teams, when they go on their coaching searches, look for the next new hotshot young coach. You know what I mean? Young guy. That's been kind of trending. So I think that's one thing Wink does have a disadvantage if he goes on some head coaching interviews, is that a lot of teams seem to be looking for that next Sean McVay.
Right.
Somebody
Well,
like of that type
it
of
depends on who he brings in as an offensive coordinator, to be honest with you. Because if he were to, let's say, hypothetically speaking, he brought in like a Cliff Kingsbury. He said, okay, I'm going to be head coach here. It's the Houston Texans. We need a guy to develop a quarterback. We're going to bring in Cliff Kingsbury. He's going to run the offense, right? So then maybe you already have your successor right there if Wink Martindale fails or if he decides to retire if you're doing well. So, I mean, there's ways about it. I don't think he's going to leave per se, but I'm not going to say never because things happen in this league. Next year, what if injuries strike and the Giants have a bad season? Then next thing you know, things happen. I'm just saying things happen. People get poached, and never say never when a head coaching opportunity. There's only 32 jobs in the world,
that.
and sometimes you're going to want to take your chance.
That's part of what makes this all going to this offseason so interesting. Because, like I said, New York Giants actually still in rebuild mode, and the fact that they've had the success they've had this season, and now all of a sudden, people want to get a hand on their assistants. You know what I mean? Trying to dig in there a little bit. So we will see what happens. But I don't know. I'm feeling pretty confident. I think this coaching staff, for the most part, will be back next year. And
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just feel strongly about that. I don't think either one of them necessarily jumping on the bus at least this season for a new head coaching job. Wink, maybe because the age could be a factor, but also I just don't know. Some guys just want to be a defensive coordinator. They want to you want to worry about that one side of the football. When you're a head coach, you got to worry about everything, and the whole team. And that's what the part of the problem is with some of these guys that do fail because they still have that mentality of the one side of the football that's their specialty, and it just they almost like forget. Like Pat Shermer, for instance, he's an offensive guy, point blank and period. He just did nothing with this defense, and you saw how bad our defense was under Pat Shermer. So it's
Well,
just it is what it is. We'll
That was
see.
James Betcher, and he did not do a good job in navigating whatever he needed. Remember, he brought in AARP people
Yeah.
as his safety. Antoine Bethea had one leg in retirement, one leg in the Giants facility. And then what happened was with that situation, A, Dave Gettleman threw him under the bus, but B, I even think he was asked to fire James Betcher. And because he was so loyal to his friend, he didn't do it. Now it goes to show you that James Betcher was I think he was with Bruce Arians in Arizona. It goes to show that maybe he should have stayed with Arians
Yeah.
because I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him back in the NFL. And he was a guy that the first year with Pat Shermer was an up and coming guy to be like, oh, he's going to be the next head coach, blah blah blah. And now he's nothing. So stubbornness also gets you fired. Pat Shermer also was a tight ass. Those two things don't help in the NFL, especially New York.
And like Alex just said, the Jets, not NFC East related, but the Jets
Football
fired
related.
Their offensive coordinator, which was definitely necessary because
Matt
I feel like
LaFleur,
it's just
or LaFleur brother.
far too much talent on that Jets team right now for them to be as bad as they were. Got off to a little hot start, and then it just cooled all the way down for this team.
Well, we
So
should have mentioned another firing, which was in the NFC East, which was Steve Turner of the Redskins has been fired as their offensive coordinator going forward as well. So it goes to show you with the Jets, that means they're investing in their young quarterback, and maybe next year with the Redskins, maybe the Commanders, maybe this is a turning of the new leaf for them too. We'll see who they bring as the offensive coordinator. So it's interesting to see the Jets. They're neighbors next door, but they're always in our back pocket. Good to see them. That means they really are going to invest in Wilson. That means Robert Saleh is maturing as a coach because it really is hard to put your ego aside, like I said with Pat Shermer, and fire your friend. He couldn't even fire Al Hunter, Pat Shermer, and that guy who looked like a bum that sat under a bridge drinking out of a paper bag. Okay, that guy looked like you couldn't coach an offensive line. Nope, gonna keep him. Nope, gonna keep him. So good stuff for the Jets.
absolutely, man, that was definitely not because the move had to be made, man. It got really bad really quick for that football team, and they needed to make a change, and I think that's a proper one right there. But another little nugget that I was wanting to bring up about the New York Giants this week, and up some little more news. The All Pro, these all the different media outlets releasing their All Pro teams, and there's a couple of names for New York Giant players trending in the All Pro names. That's obviously Dexter Lawrence, D tackle, and also Andrew Thomas, left tackle, the best left tackle in the league this year, who didn't even make the Pro Bowl. But yet, this guy, by pretty much almost all media outlets, is a first team All Pro. That just goes to show you the value of the two. All Pro is what it's really all about. That Pro Bowl thing, that's the popularity contest. That's the cool kids. The All Pro is what is for the real players. Andrew Thomas was definitely an All Pro this year and deserving of the accolades he's receiving. How you feel about that, Adam?
I think he deserves to be All Pro. I think Dexter Lawrence actually got All Pro, but I think he deserves All Pro because he's one of the best. Like we talk about Andrew Thomas, right? And let's talk about Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal right now, because I think Evan Neal is actually at a worse spot than than Andrew Thomas was this time his rookie year, right? This time his rookie year, we were calling Andrew Thomas the next Eric Flowers. Right. Then at the end of the rookie year, we're like, oh, he kind of played better. He had the ankle surgery, and then since 2021 to now, he's been lights out. I have not had any complaints about Andrew Thomas. He gave up maybe 1 sack, 2 sacks this season. I mean, you never hear his name called. He never gets called for holding. He rarely has a bad game. He had a bad game this year because of being sick. But other than
he had
that,
a bad game against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That wasn't a very
yeah, I think he was coming off of sickness. Not the best game there. But hey, you're allowed to have a mulligan in the season. There's 17 of them, right? For 15 out of the 16 or 17 games he played, he had 1 bad game. My God, people would kill for that. Meanwhile, his counterpart, Evan Neal, can't seem to stand up and is a turnstile out there right now. And I think if he does not improve next season, he's going to have to be kicked into guard. And the Giants may be looking for another another tackle at some point. But hey, Andrew
It's
Thomas,
already
all
a
pro.
testament of coaching, though. I feel like Evan Neal, I feel like will. I mean, I think he understands that the pass blocking has been a big weakness of his this year, and he's going to have to figure it out, get his footwork down, figure it out. You got to also remember. I mean, not like I said, I don't like making excuses up for a guy. He's a rookie, and he played. I mean, he spent his last year in college at the left tackle spot. So going back to right tackle, it is a little bit of a difference, and it is a little bit of an adjustment. I get it; these guys are professionals, but all those things got to go into account too a little bit, and we'll see, like you said, next year. But he has to definitely step up and show you a lot more next year because it was a struggle most of the time. I mean, he struggled in this game as well. Honestly, he was struggling out there on Sunday a little bit, and with the
That's
time
why
he
they kept. I
played.
think that's why they kept him in. And I'm worried because against a guy like we can get into the preview. A guy like Daniil Hunter, had a little, gave him a little trouble last time they played. So I would love to have seen a little bit more. There are some things and here's what I'm talking about: scouting reports, people. His scouting report, Andrew Thomas, I'm not Andrew Thomas, excuse me, Evan Neal said that he did not do well on off balance plays, and he kind of was off balance in his stance, and might have been a little too heavy set in his footwork and fundamentals. Well, you're seeing that right now. You're seeing that those still same things are transferring over. And I think that's while that is coaching, we're going to see what happens next year because maybe I know that people may not know this, but there's a school called the Charles Bentley School of Offensive Linemen, and a lot of the offensive linemen in the NFL go there to kind of better their technique. Maybe he will have a chance to do that. And better his technique and come back because I do believe that if he doesn't come back next year with these fundamentals, I do not want to waste time. If he's coming out and you're seeing him struggle out the gate a few of these games, get him to guard, move him to guard as quickly as possible, and then we'll worry about the right tackle position later.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, he definitely has to clean up a lot because I mean, Daniel Jones was facing a lot of pressure, courtesy of Evan Neal, whoever Evan Neal was trying to block most of the season. To be quite honest, man, a couple games it got really really bad. But if we want to kick it in, let's go to Monday night. I want to go to Monday night first. I want to talk about the Cowboys again. Go to Monday night football. You got the Dallas Cowboys will be going down to Tampa Bay, take on Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Cowboys definitely going in as a better. Matter of fact, the Cowboys are the only road favorite amongst these playoff teams this weekend. The Cowboys are the only ones that are favored, the only road favorite, and that's because let's be quite frank, the Cowboys are the better team of this matchup right now this week. I mean, they say what you want, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, he's the GOAT, he's this, he's that. Well, it just hasn't been looking like that all season, man. It's been rough at best. The defense hasn't been as good as expected, and offensively, it's just been a lot of strange, bizarre miscues that you don't usually see on a Tom Brady led football team. So this is going to be interesting on Monday night down in Tampa, but I still think the Cowboys can't go down there half stepping because they go down there like they did last Sunday. Tom Brady will kick their ass right up out of there on his way to the divisional round. So, what you expect in this one, Adam?
Well, I expect the Cowboys to go from being their Jekyll and Hyde team to being like Mr. Hyde this time. I think they're going to come out and be a little bit better showing because that's what they're going to do. Now, if, like you said, if they played like they played against Washington, and they have been playing sloppy, so we'll see what happens. I mean, their offensive line's a little banged up. Their defense is banged up, but like Cole said, they're getting guys back. I really want to see what they're going to do because Tampa Bay had a game this year where they looked like a Super Bowl team. They had, I forget what team they played. I think it was the Panther game. And Mike Evans went off for like 3 touchdowns. And you're like, well, if Tampa Bay comes out like that, then the Cowboys are going to be in trouble. If Tampa Bay comes out like the first half of the year, it's going to be a dogfight. And I want to see what the Cowboys are going to do because if the Cowboys want us to believe that they're anything and that they're going to win anything this year, this is the game you need to prove it in. Okay, you don't have a mobile quarterback that you're playing. It's not like you're playing a Sam Howell or Daniel Jones or Jalen Hurst. You're playing immobile Tom Brady. You have one of the best defensive players in the game. Shoot him. They had the worst off the line or banged up off the line in the NFL. I mean, it almost derailed their season. That's how bad it was. Run up that A gap. Make Micah Parsons the MVP of this game. Show me that you guys really want this, and don't because if the Cowboys choke this game away and end up going home, Mike McCarthy's probably fired and expect Sean Payton to be their head coach.
I think that'll happen as early as next week.
Yes.
if all of that transpires, man. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel because Tom. I mean, you come into this game, Tom Brady, like I said, people. I mean, he's always usually a different kind of animal come postseason, But this is still something different about this game. 45-year-old quarterback, man.
They're in their building. I like that though. I like Tampa that's in their building.
That's about maybe the one thing. What's going on, Well? What's going on Unpopular Opinion Sports? But that's one of the only things that they do. I guess they do have going for them. They get to stay home, sleep in their own beds the night before, whatever. Get to be comfy, get up, go to the game. And like I say, you got Tom Brady out there. That's always the X factor when it comes to especially in these postseason matchups. If anybody knows how to get it done in the postseason, obviously Tom Brady knows how. And this could be his last hurrah. I mean, I'd expect Tom Brady to actually retire and stay retired after this one. I don't think we're going to see a 46-year-old Tom Brady trotting out the tunnel next year. But
I think it depends on how far they go this year. I really do. If he believes, and he's a free agent this year too. So if there's a ready-made team, let's say hypothetically, Sean Payton goes back to New Orleans, right? If he was like, "Oh, you come with me to New Orleans. I got an offensive line that will protect you. I have Alvin Kamara, you have Chris Olave, you have all these guys. Your defense is ready-made. You're the one piece missing for us being a legit contender. Plus, where's Tampa Bay going to go? You know what I mean? They're gonna fall off the map without Tom Brady down there. So I mean, that's the only way he comes out, plays another year. It's a ready-made situation. I don't know. I can't say never with these guys because I thought Tom Brady would have retired at least 5 years ago, and he's still here. And the same thing with Aaron Rodgers at this point. These guys kind of like to be in the spotlight. They like the drama. And I mean, the only reason Tom Brady might retire is because of all the drama that's going on in his life. And he might want to do that. But I have a feeling that Tom is going to weigh his options. I don't think he's going to retire as immediately as he did like last time. I think he's going to kind of see who might be out there offering him a job, and then if nobody comes knocking, maybe he'll retire.
Well, we'll see, man. I just feel like, for me, from a standpoint of what are you still playing for? That's one thing if you're playing because you want to win a championship, brother. You got 7 of them. You already got 7 of them.
Don't be greedy anymore. Get out of here.
It's like you've been a multiple-time league MVP.
You're going to have your own wing in the Hall of Fame.
They probably already done made this man's bust for the Hall of Fame, even though he still got to wait 5 years after he retires.
Listen, they're making a room. They're making a room for him. That you're going to walk in and have a Tom Brady room. He's going to have the biggest bust. He's going to have the biggest bust you ever seen, right? They're just going to make it like a 6x6, foot bust where it's going to have all his accolades. You're going to walk into a room and it's going to be like, this is his jersey from here. This is his jersey from this cleat, this record, blah, 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 blah. But, it's funny because I want to touch on Tampa Bay real quick. What a year makes, right? Last year, Byron Leftwich was going to be a head coaching candidate. This year, not even a sniff of head coaching.
I mean, things went a little left for him offensively, man. Like I said, just uncharacteristic mistakes that this offense was making throughout the penalties and just miscues. It was just weird. Like I said, you don't usually see this out of a Tom Brady-led football team. And I mean, he was letting Tom Brady, for one thing, you can't say anything about the fires guy got. He was letting his team have it a lot of times. You see him out there, man, like going crazy, losing his damn mind because guys aren't where they're supposed to be or whatever. Because I don't know. It was uncharacteristic of football by this Buccaneers team. But
Todd Bowles is different than Bruce Arians. I'm just saying.
Absolutely, and this team is still sneaky dangerous in this postseason. Coming out of the horrendous NFL NFC South, man, this team is still sneaky dangerous just because of the Tom Brady factor. Always, he's gonna always have an impact regardless. And right now, this is that time of the year where Tom Brady has made his name. So he's made himself absolutely famous for this time of the year for playing football this late into the season, man. And who knows, man? The Cowboys, like I said, going there half stepping. They might be getting their asses kicked right about that stadium, out right about the playoffs, man. So it's gonna be a fun one to watch and check out, man. Also, these two teams right here are we can speak on touch on a little bit. Two of the possible opponents for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles only have a possibility of playing either one of these two, the Giants or the Seattle Seahawks. That's it. Those are the four possible teams headed to Philly next week, depending on which one of them is the
I mean,
lowest seed left.
let's be real. We're hoping that it's us.
Oh yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
see. We'll see what happens. But the Cowboys, like you said, the things that you say are alarming to me because it's like, well, Tom Brady is that, and we are in a different season. They scrapped and clawed and fought their way, even if it was in a bad division, and they showed you some glimpses. And if they put it together, Todd Bowles, I think, is really what's holding this team back. I think that's the real issue is when the shit hit the fan, Bruce Arians knew how to reel the guys in and keep them laser focused. Todd Bowles sitting here talking like, hey, well, we're going to win the game. And, I just have to see. It doesn't instill fire in people. So, things like that change. And I think, we'll find out what happens on Monday night. Maybe there'll be some rain. But the Cowboys, I feel like of all the teams in the NFL right now, they're the ones with the most pressure. I know the Eagles have some pressure on them, but they're the ones with the most pressure because there's so much hanging in the balance. They lose. McCarthy's probably fired, even though he went 12 wins. He's probably fired. They're probably gonna be like, you know what, kick rocks. We'll see you next year. I mean, Dak Prescott. I mean, what about Kellen Moore? Kellen Moore, if they don't have a good showing on offense, or again, he was a guy that was supposed to be a head coach, and now because of his offense, he's not even be considered anymore. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I think the one team that has the most, I guess, drama is the Cowboys.
Well, it's because of how up and down this last past month or so of the season has been for them. I mean, it's been really just like you said, a tale of two different teams, man, for the Dallas Cowboys. So we got to see which Cowboy team shows up on Monday night against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But how do you feel about this comment by our guy, Unpopular Opinion Sports? Tom Brady is washed. That's what happened. He been washed. Don't blame it on the coach when Tom Brady been having the most input on this offense.
I,
It's a
I I
strong
can't say
statement.
that he's washed and he's throwing for over 4,000 yards in a season and still wrecking NFL passing records. I mean, I want to believe you, but
He
I
was a
can't.
he was a
You
strong
know,
MVP candidate a year ago. Almost
right?
won the MVP a year
And
ago.
I mean, this year, yeah, while he had a down season, it does. I think without if you take Tom Brady off this team and you have Todd Bowles coach this team, they're probably not in the playoffs, right? If he leaves, so I don't want to take anything away from the guy who's the greatest of all time. What I will say is this: when you have a guy like a Bruce Arians, who is also an offensive mind, who can butt heads with Tom Brady in a meeting room, unlike a Byron Leftwich or unlike a Todd Bowles, who probably doesn't have that same influence on the offense, and he's probably saying, "Hey, you and Byron, get it done." Whereas Arians is like, "Yo, Tom, I don't want to run that play. We're not going to run that play, right?" I mean, there's a reason why Tom Brady mullied retirement. I do believe Arians was part of the reason. Was he wanted a little bit more freedom in what was going on. Arians moves into a managerial role, and Todd Bowles comes in, and this is the offense you get. A guy who, you know, Todd Bowles is not going to really challenge Tom Brady, right? You know, Byron Leftwich is not really going to challenge Tom Brady, right? I mean,
Tom Brady's older than Byron Leftwich.
right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, think about that. Like, hey, Tom, I've won. Hey, by the way, Byron, I've won 7 Super Bowls while your ass was, becoming a bust in the NFL. All right. And yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, you could have that ego, right? I don't know what Tom Brady's like in the locker room. He could be a dick. And Todd Bowles, again, didn't do a good job with the Jets, is not really a motivator of men, is a great defensive coordinator, probably not a great head coach. And he comes in here and basically takes Bruce Arians' system and tells these guys to run it. And I guarantee you, he's probably not sitting there in the meeting going, hey, Tom, take that play out. He's probably not.
Well, we'll see, man. We'll see what happens, man. It'll be a fun one Monday night. But before we get to the next game, real quick, I just wanted to, since we just talked about it. Okay, like I said, four possible opponents for the first round for the number one seed Philadelphia Eagles next week. How do you feel about any of those matchups for the Eagles potentially?
The best matchup for them would probably be the easiest one's probably the Buccaneers, right? If they win, or Seattle, right? Um, I don't know. Seattle is probably not going to win. I don't know. They don't have a great defense, but I don't think they would make it up to Philadelphia. The Giants, I think, would be a decent matchup too. I mean, I don't know what would change because again, we didn't play their starters this week, and they were very vanilla this week. So if Jalen Hurst is healthy, I think the Giants are in trouble. Again, just because of the lack of offense. The Cowboys would intrigue me. That would be a game if the Cowboys gave their A game. Would be intriguing to me because they both have solid defenses. They both have stars on the defensive side that we could deem. The real question is who's beating anybody out of the AFC from this NFC, right? The top three teams in the AFC are pretty much, I wouldn't say locked to win the Super Bowl, but what you got the Chiefs, Bills, and the Bengals are all pretty good teams, and I do believe they're probably better than anyone on the other side. So I think the best matchup for them is probably, well, I would love to see them play Minnesota, but they're not going to play Minnesota. But it's probably going to be the easiest matchup for them is probably the Giants. The hardest matchup for them is actually the easiest matchup is probably Seattle. The next matchup they would probably prefer would be the Giants, and the last matchup they would probably want to see is the Cowboys. I just think the Cowboys might have a little bit more defense to get away with it. But again, that's why they play the games.
Opinion, yeah, and I agree. But my opinion is, I definitely agree. That's why they play the games. But my opinion is a little different from the aspect of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys and the Giants obviously are also part of this NFC East division. The Eagles have already played both of those teams twice this season.
Remember, we're 1-5 in the division. 1-5 in.
I get it, Adam. But split with the Cowboys, swept the Giants. I get it, but at the same time, I think you really prefer not to play a division rival for a third time when you got other options out there like the Seattle Seahawks potentially. I don't think that's going to happen. They're not beating the 49ers. I don't see them beating the 49ers this weekend.
So let's be realistic. Be realistic. We don't think they're going to play Seattle, right? That leaves the Giants and Dallas, right? The two teams that we think.
Tampa Bay also, because also possible could be
right. Tampa Bay, right? So Tampa Bay. So let's go team by team. Tampa Bay, for me, doesn't probably loses because I don't think Tom Brady would with that pass rush would be able to survive. I think that offensively they can score points. Defensively, they can probably keep the Eagles in check. That could be a sneaky matchup that we don't know about. Remember, they played Tampa Bay last year and lost. I don't know if they would get that rematch, but we would see because. Remember, Hurst in that game last year was off slightly. That's why they lost. They lost because Hurst couldn't complete the passes. The Cowboys game is interesting to me because, again, it depends on what Cowboy team shows up. Cowboys show up with the defense. It might be one of the best games we're talking about. Giants, I do like the Giant game, but the things that I've seen in the Giant games, both the first one and the second one, don't leave me to believe like, okay, the third one we're going to be all of a sudden gangbuster like right now with Minnesota, right? Minnesota, we feel a little bit more confident because we went toe to toe with them. We lost on a 61-yard field goal. That is almost like the probability of that is damn near impossible, right? I mean, it's a very minuscule percentage that those go in against us. Unfortunately, against us, the possibility is high. But my point is that's why I think I'm drawing the confidence against the Eagles. A well-rested Eagle team that can now, saw a different side of Wink Martindale, will have, again, more tape to see what they can do, doesn't bode well for them. The Cowboys, on the other hand, I think just have overall better defense than us to handle A.J. Brown and that team. I know that we have Adoree Jackson, but I just feel like the Eagles are slightly better than us talent-wise, and if they get
they're not slightly better than us talent. They're significantly better talent-wise. I think, but I also agree that, like I said, watching just watching Sunday, seeing what the backups were able to do, and like I said, Jalen Hurts to me was the one that was more restrained. Everybody else was getting after it. I'm telling you, Adam. Everybody else was not. There was nobody else on that team that was playing like they were kind of holding back. AJ Brown was getting after it. He was
No, I'm not saying
bombing the routes
holding back. I'm
market,
saying
trying to get open. And I know what you're saying. You're saying that just overall was a
the
vanilla
game
game
plan.
plan,
The
and
game
it kind
plan.
of
Right.
was.
Right.
It kind of was. It kind of
Well,
was.
think about it,
I
right?
do see what you mean there, but
They couldn't scramble with Hurst, right? Which that's a lot of his yardage is in scrambling, right? And that opens up people downfield because now you have to bring a guy up when you know clearly that he's not going to run. That Jalen Hurst out there didn't look like a Jalen Hurst. The offense was vanilla. The defense kind of did enough to get them off the field. They didn't need sacks, but it wasn't like the Giants were world beaters on offense or anything like that. So you can pump the brakes and kind of play. They played their starters in case the Giants were going to come back, right? I think that's why they kept them in the game most of the game. And then when the Giants chipped away at the lead and, of course, kicked the field goal, you got to keep them in a little longer because you didn't blow them out. But because these teams play hard, Jalen Hurts throws an interception. They kick a couple field goals in the red zone that they probably thought were going to be touchdowns. And like you said, it was like 19-0 or 19-3 at halftime. They were cruising. So I don't expect them to exert themselves the same way. Now, I'm not taking anything away from our team. I'm glad we played hard and weren't embarrassed. I mean, if this was Joe Judge's team, we're probably losing to that team in the first quarter, 28-0.
Joe Judge's team, we won't even be in the position we in at all remotely. I feel
Right.
like so, but
listen, unpopular opinion. That's why you have an unpopular opinion. I have an unpopular opinion. I'm not saying the Giants. I'm not saying the Giants are not a bad team. I'm saying talent-wise, the team that matches up talent-wise against them best is the Cowboys. And whether or not that happens is a different story. I'm not saying that Minnesota is going to beat us on Sunday. I think there's a good chance that we win that game. There's also a good chance we could lose that game. Things happen, and we'll preview in a minute in our keys to the game. So maybe you'll see where I'm coming from. But I know all I was saying is Mac asked the question, which team do you think has the better chance of going toe-to-toe with the Eagles? I think it's the Cowboys.
well, we will find out, man. I'm obviously hoping that we get that opportunity to go back to the
Right.
link because I was I had to go up there, what I mean, and what I mean, spread my wings a little bit on Sunday and let them know that if y'all see us in a couple more weeks, had to remind them that they wasn't going to be seeing our JV team. So
Hey, Mac had to let him know. He said, "I will be back for the playoffs in these exact seats.
Can't afford those tickets, bro. But
You will see me outside the link, and I will kick your ass."
But I'll be there in spirit. I'll be there in spirit. You know what I mean? Maybe I will take the ride at the Xfinity Live. Who knows? See how I'm feeling that day.
Yeah, there you go. Go to whatever bar you go.
There.
Kick it somewhere. If the Giants win, that's what you should do. I mean, go. I don't like experiencing crowds, and I have young kids, right? I think crowds is when I mean, it would be fun if my team's not in the playoffs to go there. I was in New York City when the Saints lost to the 49ers. That was pretty fun to watch on TV because you get to see the ebb and flow of a game when you don't have a dog in the race. But when you have a team in it, and we'll see because the Eagles and Giants always play epic games. Remember, Ron Dixon had a 97-yard kickoff return. Jason Sehorn had that epic interception. They also beat us in 2008, the Plaxico Burress game. And then in 2006, they also beat us to eliminate us from the playoffs. So we have some history with the Eagles in the playoffs.
We do. And as one more just other comment about that too. If in the event that it's us to go play the Eagles, like I said, that blowout from back in was it
I don't have more
December?
Oh my God. This is the problem. This is the problem with Giant fans, Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to get on a soapbox right now. Look, I am a Giant fan. On Sundays, I'm going to root for the team on Sundays. As an objective guy doing all four NFC East teams, and what my eyeballs have told me and have seen, the Giants right now are not in the position to be saying, hey, we can go and beat the Eagles when, by the way, we're only 1-4 in the division or whatever the hell we are. Okay? That's first off. Second off, It wasn't like we were in close in these games. The Cowboys have been close in these games. The Cowboys actually split the games with the Eagles, okay, in a shootout, in a game. So
Now
all I'm basing it on is the knowledge that I'm seeing. Now, the fanhood in me is going to be like, you guys, they don't want to see us. We're going to kick their fucking ass, man. You know what I mean? But hey, I am just observing, giving you my opinion, and you railroad me. Come on, Adam. You're believing in weak ass Cowboys? Come on, man. Like, no, bro.
look,
Give me a
I
break.
I just was going to say about that. Like the Eagle team we played in December, early December, the first time when they blew the doors off of us up at MetLife Stadium. The difference is though, I think this New York Giant team is even though it's only a few weeks later, is playing with just a whole different confidence level. That was part of that really bad part of the season for this New York Giant team, where things were kind of slipping away a little bit, where we were
Playing with confidence. The
looking at
Giants are
not even
three,
now
six,
make
and
not
one
make
down in the last 10 games.
not make
I mean,
not make the playoffs. I'm just saying that this New York Giant team, these last few weeks, starting with the Washington big win in Washington, and then the game in Minnesota where we still came up short by a 61-yard field goal
we went two
late
and
in the
two down the
game,
stretch. That's
and
what we
and
needed.
and and we in this Colts game and that Colts game, and then to go out there and battle with the Eagles again with our backups on Sunday. This New York Giant team is a different team than the Eagles played at MetLife Stadium. So when they get our varsity players back on the field again, if that
Oh,
happens, if the
Lord.
matchup happens, I just believe that it's going to be. I'm not necessarily saying we're going to go up there and beat them. I can still acknowledge the Eagles are a better football team, but at the same time, I think it will be a far more competitive football game, and they're not blowing the doors off of us by no means. And not only that, we could potentially win because had our starters been out there this past Sunday, we would have won. There's no doubt in my mind we would have won that game on Sunday
Right, if
if
they
our
played the
starters
same
played.
way. I mean, again, if you know that Davis Webb is playing there and half the team is sitting, the game plans will slightly different. So we'll see. Well, you know what? The best way to find out is if we play them. So what we need to do is shut up and beat Minnesota, and then we can figure this the fuck out. Because people think that if we lose and Dallas goes up there, you'll see. All I'm saying, unpopular opinion, is I believe in momentum. And McCarthy sucks. I've just said that to you. But they did also beat him a few weeks ago, right? Didn't they beat him a few weeks ago? The Cowboys? Am I not mistaken on that? Am I
They
missing
did,
something
they did,
here?
they
And
did,
didn't
they
they beat
did.
him in a shootout? Okay. I mean, yeah, Dak Prescott sucked, but they still beat that team minus Sans one guy. That was the quarterback, right? And so they played well enough to beat that team there. We have played two games against them, and the second game was better than the first game, but not by much. Okay, so now the third time you're going in there, yes, I think the Cowboys have a better shot at beating them than we do. I think I didn't say our effort will be bad. I didn't say that we had no chance of winning the game. I just think it's going to be a little different. I agree with you. The confidence is going to be different, right? I believe that. But I just think sometimes talent is going to be better. And if you're playing their A game and they're playing their A game, the Giants, you know, may come up short, just like they did against Minnesota. They did everything against Minnesota. You know what happened against Minnesota? A couple penalties, a couple turnovers, and bingo bango, right? If they play their A game, they beat Minnesota. Maybe blow the doors off. Maybe up by 2 scores. So you never know what happens. But all I'm saying is that when the Eagles were peaking at their peak at the top, when they were humming, they were a tough team to beat. Now you're going to give them some time to get back and get some guys that and reevaluate. I think for me, the team that gives them the most trouble would be the Cowboys. I would love to see the Eagles next week. How about that unpopular opinion?
Well, we have gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves, everybody. The Eagles are definitely playing a football game next week. Who they're playing against, we don't know yet. Hopefully it will be us. But in order for it to be us, we got to go out there to Minnesota once again, out in Minneapolis in the dome, and this time figure it out and get the job done and beat these Minnesota Vikings, which is the team that I feel like this New York Giant team has a lot of they have a lot of confidence against. They feel like they know what they're capable of doing against this football team. They move the ball very well, one of their better offensive performances of the season. against this Minnesota defense a couple of weeks ago, and I believe that they're going to go out there and I think the New York Giants will get the job done. I'll be disappointed if they don't because this Minnesota defense is absolutely atrocious, and I know how good they are offensively. They can score points in bunches, but they can't stop anybody either, and that's where it's going to come in. If it's going to be a shootout, it's going to come down to which defense can step up and make a stop in a crucial situation. And I believe in the New York Giant defense as far as this matchup goes. You know what I mean?
Well,
That when it comes down to it, that we can make that stop, that crucial clutch stop when it matters. And
I'm hoping you're
that's
right
what
about that.
I'm just thinking. That's seeing how this game could possibly go down like that. This could be a game where honestly, I know it sounds crazy when I'm going to say it sounds a little crazy with the New York Giant offense we've seen all season, but this could be a game where both teams score up into the 30s. And like I said, it's going to come down to like
Well, you're
that
going to need
crucial,
to.
like a crucial stop right there, where one team can make that big stop, all important stop, and get the ball back for their offense. And I think that team's going to be the New York Football Giants in Minnesota, and they're going to get the job done on Sunday. That's just my opinion, and I'm not saying it because I'm a fan. I'm saying it based off of what I saw a couple of weeks ago with this same matchup, and Kirk Cousins. We've been talking about other people choking. Kirk Cousins is one of those guys, man, that just seems to never be able to rise to the occasion when it matters the most. And we get that pressure on him, I think he can fold once again in a big spot. What you
Well,
got, Adam?
let's see. I mean, I'm afraid if I say anything against anything or have an opinion other than what is Giant related, I'm gonna get my head cut off. But hey, you know what? That's why I love myself. So I'm gonna say whatever the hell's on my goddamn mind, right? So here's what I'm looking at, right? Giants, I don't believe can win a shootout. I think that plays right into Minnesota's hands. I really do. I think when you do that and you're loosey goosey and you're running up and down the field, you're prone to more interceptions, more fumbles, more turnovers. What the Giants, I think, are going to try to do is play what got them there, and that's the bread and butter. Hand it off to Barkley and do the little short passing, which I've figured out is if you look at the Giants offense, they are predominantly a run heavy team, so they do a lot of RPO action. So you're going to see a lot. The reason the offensive line has been doing better is because they run these RPO actions or these play actions, which is allowing the offensive line to get off the ball as a run play. They don't have to stand up or back up or give ground, right? They're already firing off the ball, as opposed to when they do stand up in pass protection, the Giants don't do as well in pass protection. So for me, the Giants need to establish the run, try to build off of that, and score touchdowns. The only way this works is if you score touchdowns, because in a shootout, it's a track meet and anything can happen. But if you're trying to play ball control with the Giants, you have to score touchdowns because Minnesota will find a way. The Giants blitzed them a lot this game. I expect them to blitz I expect something different from Wink Martindale, and I thought about this before. He blitzed them like 42% of the time. I'm wondering if he's going to lay back on that a little bit and kind of see what Minnesota does first before letting out the blitz. Because when you start to blitz, because we have our guys back, guys are going to be on islands. They weren't on islands last time, but they will be on islands this time because they're going to say, you know what, Adoree Jackson, you know what, McKinney, we're going to leave you one-on-one with these guys. We're going to bring more pressure now. And let's see if they can sustain it, because TJ Hawkinson killed us last game. Justin Jefferson, killed us. And Adam Thielen, didn't have a great game, but he's, look for the unsung heroes that we need to worry about. You know what I'm saying? So the Giants, for me, I need them to play ball control on offense, and defensively, you need to get after it. You need to create turnovers. Don't have them call back because of penalties. Don't have them slip through your fingertips and hit the ground, because the only way you're really going to win, the reason the Minnesota Vikings win the game is they got one more possession than the Giants, right? They got that turnover. Right, they got a blocked field goal. They had a few more things break their way, a couple penalties go their way. Right, so don't be kicked out of the game because you don't create turnovers. The Giants can play a flawless game, score 20, 30 points, but they threw one interception and that gave Minnesota 38 points. You know what I'm saying? So
I
just be
agree.
cognizant of that.
Well, one thing, T.J. Hawkins, he just brought him up. He had a tremendous game against the New York Giants a couple weeks ago. He scored a couple touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. One absolute spectacular one in the end zone there, right at the boundary line. And but I think the one big difference in this game here, this coming up, is we got a big X factor back in our lineup that wasn't around for that game as well, and that's going to probably help, subdue T.J. Hawkinson a little bit. I don't think he's going to be as free flowing running down the field as he was, because Xavier McKinney is a different kind of player as well. He's definitely a difference maker out there, and I think the impact of him being back in this lineup will help neutralize T.J. Hawkinson a little bit as well. So those things come into play. Also, Dory Jackson should be back. I would hope he's back in the. I mean, he's been limited all week, still practice, so it's still no guarantee that he's going to be on the field on Sunday. Actually, but hopefully, if he's back, I mean, that secondary is going to be a different secondary than the Minnesota Vikings saw a couple of weeks ago on Christmas
But
Eve. So
you brought up a good point, something that I want to touch on, and that is you said T.J. Hawkinson with Xavier McKinney will be guarded. Well, maybe they change it up a bit, and maybe I'm forward thinking here, but Dalvin Cook had some yardage in our game. He had, decent yardage, not great. I know he's injured now, but what I'm getting at is maybe the Vikings run game, which was doing well. They were getting 3 or 4 yards, at least 3.5, 4 yards a pop when they ran. Maybe the Vikings decide, hey, we need to go on these methodical drives. We need to go score touchdowns and eat up clock, because our defense is not good. Because that's how, if I were Minnesota, that's how I'd approach it. I kind of flip the script on you a little bit, and I say, we're going to do what the Giants do, and that's dink and dunk, 5-yard passes, play action, do the run game, go downfield. We have
one of your favorite lines, Adam, right here.
What?
A tiger doesn't change the stripes, man. That is not in Minnesota's DNA offensively, man. It's just not what they do, man. It's just not.
I'm just telling you. I'm just giving Ian O'Connell some. Hey, Ian O'Connell, man, you want to beat the Giants? I just gave you some good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Think about that. And the thing is, I won't disagree with you there, but Ian O'Connell does like to attack, right? And I think for me, if he is really evaluating his team correctly, that's the only way for me to neutralize the Giants' pass rush. Because right now they're banged up on the offensive line. The Giants are going to be coming with 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, the whole damn team. They might bring an 11-man blitz at one point. Who knows? But in order to neutralize that, you're going to have to do double tight ends, kind of, max protect, kind of get guys in there. And the only way to do that is the Giants have a weakness, and it's been known, is they're not great run defense. They didn't have great run against Indianapolis, but they didn't need to do much because Indianapolis is so putrid. But against Minnesota was actually getting yards. But then they panicked and they threw the ball and they tried to do it. I think in order for Minnesota to really get going, they need the run game, because if they can get that run action going, more so than the Giants, because the Giants, that's kind of their bread and butter. They need Daniel Jones to run, and I think that's where they're going to have an advantage on their offensive side. If they start to play in a shootout and take Daniel's legs away, it's going to essentially be playing into their hands in that bend but don't break defense. However, you on the other side for Minnesota, you can't, if you do a track meet, which is great, the probabilities of going 3 and out and punting the ball are far greater than the Giants, right? The Giants, what they do is they do that little, get the 3 yards here, get the 3 yards there, do a little 5-yard, dump route. If Minnesota can somehow emulate that, right, and say, listen, we need to run the football, and that'll take out McKinney, and you'll get more one-on-one actions, that would be my game plan. Establish your run game, try to suck up these linebackers in this pass rush, do some screens in and behind it, and then when the going gets tough, start hitting the balls downfield, because that's the only way it's going to open up. If they come out just throwing, you might as well call it a wrap for Minnesota.
I mean, look, I hear you, Adam. That to me sounds like a very, very sound, fundamentally sound game plan that for Minnesota if they go out. But the thing is, a team like this with a weapon like Justin Jefferson, you just can't help yourself, you just can't help yourself but to take those shots, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's just, like I said, you putting your quarterback back against a pass rush like the New York Giants have. Kayvon Thibodeau is absolutely asserting himself right now at the absolute right time of the year, man. This kid is an animal. And right now, this Minnesota Viking team, they can't help themselves. They want to drop back. They want to get the ball downfield to Justin Jefferson. They're going to take those opportunities, take those shots, man. And I think the New York Giants pass rush is going to make them pay for it. That's just what I mean. I'm banking on that. I'm hoping that's how it goes down. Also, offensively for the Giants, you're right. We've been thinking and dunking it all season, but this Minnesota game was the game where the chains came off of Daniel Jones. He was throwing that ball downfield with confidence against his Minnesota defense on Christmas Eve, man. So I'm
Right,
not
and
saying it's going to be an exact bluept, exactly the same, but at the
but he
same
also threw an
time,
interception that was costly. You know,
well, that
because you
happens
got to
from time
think.
to time.
Right, but we're talking about the Giant. It's costly when you're -2 in the turnover game, right? So the point is that when you throw the
So
ball deep and you throw it around the yard and you go against because the Tiger, you just said it, Tigers don't change their stripes. I think that was a Giant team that was out of their element. They played right into Minnesota's hands because they kept passing the football, right? And they allowed for turnovers and things like that. This time, they're going to have to do the opposite because if they're going to win the game, they're going to have to be ball control, time of possession, slug you in the mouth, break their will type of game because that's going to put the pressure on Minnesota to, play their type of football. If the Giants get behind in this game by 2 scores or a touchdown late, they're gonna be in trouble. They need to kind of dictate the momentum, dictate the pace of this game because it's gonna be loud, it's gonna be raucous. The first third and 8 the Giants get with and there will be, and I'm telling you, Nick Gates, thank you. They're going to wake up now, Nick Gates. I'm sorry. I know that's an innocent comment you probably made. It didn't seem loud, but guess what they're doing? They said that all over the radio. They said it everywhere. They are preaching it. This team is going to get behind this team. It's going to be full throat. And if you
it's a
start to get
playoff
some
environment. It's going to
right,
be a playoff
right,
environment.
right,
So.
it's going to be even. Well, what I'm saying is, if you didn't think they were loud now, they're going to be loud on Sunday. They heard you, is what I'm saying. And so what I'm saying is they have if the Giants get the Giants have sometimes problems when they get drives going and then they get into penalty situations. False start here, like Evan Neal. I'm worried about that guy in the dome when it's loud because he's going to have Danielle Hunter on him and the Darius Smith on him. And let's be honest, he didn't play that well in the game last time. And with it louder in the game, let's hope he doesn't false start and cost us and sabotage us drives because that's how the Giants are going. I hate to say this, the Giants are going to have to do a few things. They're going to have to play absolutely flawless, and they're going to have to score touchdowns, like we said last time. Play damn near perfect game because Minnesota will give you the game. They're going to throw the pass to you. Kirk Cousins is going to give you 1 or 2. Capitalize on them. You play a perfect game, you'll be playing in Philadelphia next week.
Well, as long as Seattle doesn't beat San Francisco, which we don't think is going to happen.
Come on, man.
Hey, you never know, bro.
Unless the Brock Purdy experiment comes down to earth, and he throws like 7 picks.
Something else we were talking about. That's also a matchup between divisional foes, man. For a matchup for the 3rd time this season. I mean, it's not easy beating a team 3 times. I'm not even sure if they did how they played out this season. If they split or if San Fran
I think they
won
lost
both matchups
twice, but there was close games. Listen, Seattle. I'll give it to them, and then we can probably touch on what we think. We obviously think the Giants are going to beat Minnesota. I mean, you think it, I think it. I'm hoping I'm not getting too confident because that's what I'm starting to feel like before. But I'm confident that we can beat this team. Now, we should respect this team, right? People don't want to respect them. They won 13 games. Okay, they're 8-1 at home. All right. I thought there's another stat I should be looking at this because it was pretty interesting, but. And they've won, I think, 11-0 in 1-score games this season. So there's a lot of stuff that this team does well. So as much as we think they're the worst 13-win team, this is the NFL for a reason, okay? It's hard to win 13 games.
It is, but I think part of their disrespect for the Minnesota Vikings is the fact that defensively they can't seem to stop anyone. Really, so
But we've seen a lot of teams in the NFL over the years be like that. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning, they never really had a great defense. They had some good pass rushers like this Minnesota team does. And if you take a lead, that plays into their hands because they can come at you relentlessly, right? But here, and usually teams don't have the firepower to get back. The Giants, they know the Minnesota knows they can play toe to toe with them. I don't know what they're going to do defensively because Ed Donatel has been an absolute nightmare. Now I do know that Ian O'Connell yelled at him, or kind of was like, "Hey, dude, You got to be better than this. You got to be more aggressive against us, so you'll be aggressive in the game. I don't know if he's going to bring more blitzes because I didn't see many blitzes in this game. I saw a lot of four-man fronts and dink and dunk all over the field. Do they bring a little bit more pressure in this game if the Giants are there?
They might try, but I think that would play I think that would play into the Giants' hands, actually, into Daniel Jones' hands, and help that, especially if they're not getting home with those blitzes. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we'll go to this question real quick. What do you think about Davis and Collins helping in the run game? I think myself,
I like Jared Davis.
I like both of them. Landon Collins too. He's been stepping in, kind of playing that somewhat like linebacker role, and still out dropping back in coverage on some of these, try to cover some of these running backs and tight ends a little bit. At the same time, I think Landon Collins. I think they do help out big time in the run game. I think Landon Collins is a plugger, man. He wants to stick his nose in there and make the big hits, man. And Collins and Davis, like you said, played very well on Sunday in Philly, man. So I think that could be a difference making something else too. Like I said, what Landon Collins did play in that Christmas Eve game against the Vikings, but Davis did not. So that's once again another piece right there that also we don't know. We don't know what to expect because we didn't see him the first time around against the Vikings, and we
Well,
did
he
see him
has
play.
familiarity with them. I mean, he's played in Detroit, so he knows their
Yeah,
personnel pretty well. I'm excited for them. I would think Jared Davis is going to be more in the pass game and more of a pass rusher, a little bit faster than Jalen Smith, a little bit more fluid. Jalen Smith has done well in the run game, so I think he'll be starting. McFadden's done pretty well in the run game, not for nothing. So I think where you'll see him is where he drops back in the zone and kind of brackets Hawkinson. Now, the guy that I would be intrigued by if I'm the Vikings is Irv Smith. Now, he's capable of catching a few passes. That's a guy I may try to feature a little bit more and see if I can get him open because I think what Minnesota's going to have to do is not give it to the obvious guys, right? You can't give it to Justin Jefferson because we know that. You can't give it to T.J. Hawkinson because we're going to be ready for that. What you need to go to is Adam Thielen, Irv Smith, KJ Osborne. Those kind of guys are going to need to step up big time in order for Minnesota to win. If those guys start to go off, if Osborne has another 100-yard game and Thielen's catching passes here and there, that could be a difference maker. So last time they didn't really hurt us with those two guys. They were kind of quiet. But this week, Minnesota needs to get those guys more involved because I think it will help them against this blitz-happy team. The thing that worries me about the blitz, and this is the only thing that worries me, is if we get caught on an island against one of these guys and, Kirk Cousins just happens to be a half a second faster, doing that. That could be a back-breaking play that happens, So that's the only thing I'm a little cautious about. Other than that, I think the Giants should win this game. I'm not disrespecting the Vikings per se. I just think the Giants will go back to what works and they'll play ball control and they'll get it done in the red zone.
Well, all right. Well, what's going on, Coach Ed? Shout out to Coach Ed, man. Just as I said, Davis plays through the tackle. He did a good job in the react, and fill in the run game, man. He absolutely did, man. He was all over the field on Sunday.
Well, I don't
man.
know if
Really
he's
impressed
taking
with that
Smith's
guy.
job right now. I can't say that. I think next year, definitely, if they decide to bring him back, because I think that's why they brought him in here, to be honest with you. I think they signed him on the practice squad. They bringing him up because they want to sign him next year. And, because they may not, Roquan Smith is going to be pretty expensive. So if you can get a guy and Jared Davis kind of come in and learn the system, then you don't need to worry about Jalen Smith if you don't want him to come back. Because you obviously like Darian Beavers. You probably like Micah McFadden. You keep Jared Davis because he fits better in your system, and then you can let Smith walk if you want. That's all.
And there was one more little small bit of New York Giant news.
James Washington.
Yeah, it's something I guess a little worthy of speaking of, considering.
Oh, I like it. He's probably the best receiver on our team. Well, not best receiver, but
he
most
kind of
talented
is.
receiver.
He doesn't know the offense as well yet as the other guys that have been here all year. But
I know guys don't like to look at stats. but he doesn't have the greatest stats. But he was drafted in the second round, which means there's some talent behind him. I think it's a great move by Joe Shane. I really do. Again, I think it's a futures deal. Okay, I think he's coming in here. You learn. I don't know if he'll play. Some people say he's going to play on Sunday. I don't know if that is
It's
possible.
been rumored that he may get activated for the game on Sunday. It's been nothing obviously official, but it's been some rumors saying that he may
Maybe for
actually
punt
get
returns or
activated for the
something.
game on Sunday.
Because
Hey,
I don't know where you're going to play him unless they don't believe in Darius Slayton. But I think you're going to roll the three guys out there: Slayton, Richie
probably
James.
put together a couple
I mean, he
small
does the
packages.
reverses. He could do the reverse thing that they've sorely lacked. If you watch his highlights with the Cowboys and the Steelers, he did do the reverses and jet sweeps, and they may want to add that element to their offense. But I think it's a good move going forward as well because I think he has a little bit more of a dimension. He can be signed to a futures deal if he's on the practice squad. And that means you can bring him in. He can learn the offense. And then you'll have a guy in here next year that can compete for a job with some of the young guys and maybe a couple free agents. Because you look at the free agency class, unless the Giants make a big move, and this is a kind of a move, James Washington, to me, is a kind of a move that if you don't go out and get a DeAndre Hopkins, which, again, if they go out and trade, and this is a little offseason talk, a little ahead of this. I know we're still talking about the playoffs, but if you go out and trade for DeAndre Hopkins and you wasted my time, you should have gotten Jerry Jeudy in there because you're going to have a guy that's younger and not going to cost as much, right? To me, the Giants shouldn't trade unless you get a T. Higgins. DeAndre Hopkins, as much as I like DeAndre Hopkins, I don't want to pay that contract for an aging veteran right now, especially if I can. You might as well use that capital, trade up in the draft, go get a kid, from Tennessee or SMU or a player like that. I like a guy out of Ole Miss, Jonathan Mingo. I really do think if the Giants can get him in the second round, 6'2", 4'4", speed, 225 pounds, is going to be an A.J. Brown type, Akeem Nicks type of player for you. That's what I would do.
Well, we'll definitely see, man. But yeah, that was the news of the day for the New York Giants assigning James Washington to the practice squad, and we'll see what happens and see if he's actually on the field on Sunday. And it'll obviously be in a limited capacity, but if he is out there, but we'll see. I mean, you've seen over the years, especially in Pittsburgh, this dude can make some plays, man. He's definitely can seriously can be a valuable part of the offense. Obviously, with only a few days of work, I can't expect a whole lot regardless, but we'll see. Like I said, we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. And I don't really have too much more, Adam, man. Anything else you want to say before we wrap things up today?
Not really, but I will say one more thing about James Washington. He's kind of like a Brandon Cooks, right? We're in the mix for a Brandon Cooks type of player. Kind of got a speedy guy, end around type player. The Giants have been looking for one of these. Like I said, they're probably going to have packages for him. It would probably throw Minnesota off, right? They didn't show that last time. Now they bring it out. It has been part of their offense with Wandale Robinson and Kadarius Toney, and they haven't had a receiver that they trusted to run it. James Washington could be that receiver for you. So I like the move. I think the Giants match up well. I think they drew a good draw for them in the playoffs. I don't think they would have beaten San Francisco out the gate. I think they have a good chance of beating Minnesota, as we spoke about. And I think this is the best draw they could ask for.
Absolutely, man. And I want to thank everybody coming through, hanging out in the chat, man, for the wild card edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. Hopefully, we will be back next week for the divisional round. Hopefully, the Giants are still in it, man. We're going to find out on Sunday afternoon when they go to Minnesota. When they go to Minnesota, man, for another showdown against them Vikings, man. I have faith that this New York Giant team will come out on top, and hopefully, maybe we'll be headed to Philly in a couple weeks for that divisional round matchup. I would love to see that, man. Love to be a part of that, and I would love to break that game down. So I hope we get that. But like I said, we got to take care of Minnesota first. The Eagles are sitting back waiting, getting healthier. So definitely gonna make sure y'all tune in on Sunday immediately following the game for the True Blue Aftermath live after that postseason game, and hopefully it'll be a good one, man. Because I am not trying to, even though it's been a long time, and I know you feel like I'm just happy getting in the postseason. I'm not. I'm a New York Giant fan. I want to see us win. I expect to see us win. I'm not just happy being there. So hope we get it done on Sunday. And you know what I mean? Everybody make sure y'all tune in, enjoy the game. And this is my guy, me. I'm my guy, Adam Costas. I am Mac the Giants fan. Peace.
Yes.
I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MACDA Giants fan.